Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Pallavi. I'm part of the North America marketing team here at eGain, and I will be your host for today's webinar. We're excited for you to join us as our experts from Forrester Research and eGain discuss what digital transformation is and how it applies to customer service. Before we begin, please ensure that your lines are muted for better sound quality. We will be holding a Q&A session at the end of the webinar, so feel free to submit your questions at any point by typing them into the questions box on the right-hand side. As for the slides from the webinar and the recording, we will make both of them available to you later this week. You will receive an email with more details. Beginning today's discussions will be Kate Leggett, VP and Principal Analyst at Forrester Research. Kate, as a leading expert on customer service strategies, focuses on helping organizations establish and validate customer service strategies, prioritize and focus customer service projects, facilitate customer service vendor selection, and plan for project success. And with that, I will hand it over to Kate.
Hey, thanks, Pallavi. And thank you to all of you on the phone today who've taken an hour out of your busy days to listen to us speak. So let's get going. And let me see if I can move slides. Pallavi, can you give me control of the slides, please?
Yes, Kate, you do have control. Try clicking on your screen.
Okay. I'm not able to move them. Can you move them for me, please?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, next slide. Okay, so digital transformation, and that means the use of digital channels from web self-service, channels like email, chat, SMS, and social channels are becoming a lot more pervasive in the world that we live in today. And many customer service organizations are leveraging these channels to help move the needle on the experience that they deliver to their customers to garner their satisfaction and long-term loyalty. And so what we want to do on this webinar is highlight this rise of digital channels and the importance in supporting your customers over these channels. And we're also going to talk about how these channels are used in customer service and then the value that they deliver. And lastly, before I hand it over to Kurt and eGain, we'll also highlight on how you embark on the journey to digital transformation. So next slide, please. Okay, let's build this slide out. So what is digital transformation? So digital channels offer a unique and different way of interacting with your customers that go beyond what traditional channels offer. And this is important because increasingly customers' experiences with brands happen via the digital touchpoints. And so it's no wonder that companies, both large companies and small companies, are looking to distinguish themselves and their brands by the way that they offer and they engage with their customers over the digital channels. Okay, next slide. Okay, and let's move to the next slide. Okay, so here's some data from Forrester. Customers are going digital today. The average U.S. customer has over 3 connected devices. 32% use tablets. Just over half of U.S. customers use smartphones. 69% use desktops. 3/4 of U.S. consumers use laptops. Next slide. And this data shows that digital customers, again, like I said, have over 3 connected devices. The younger generation, so what we call the Gen Xers and Ys, leads the pack with over 3 connected devices. The golden generation, those that are 70 years or older are lagging, but even the older generation have, on average, over 2 connected devices. Next slide, please. And the digital channels are advancing as purchasing channels. And consumers are using, again, these channels for purchasing. Our data shows that still walking into a store and buying a product is the way that most consumers buy products today. But more and more consumers are using digital devices for purchasing. For example, 53%, that's over half of consumers, access the internet for purchasing from a desktop or a laptop computer. 13% use a tablet computer for purchasing. 10% use purchasing or do purchasing activities via mobile phone. 9% use an actual shopping application on a tablet computer, and on and on. And if you sum up all the purchasing activities that are happening on the digital channels, it surpasses the number of customers that actually walk into a store to purchase a product. Next slide, please. And digital channels are also advancing for customer service. And this is our trend data that shows the rise of digital channels for customer service in the last 3 years. Like for purchasing activities, the phone or the traditional channels still remain the most important channel in being able to support customers for customer service. But these are very quickly backed by help or frequently asked questions on a company's website. These are digital channels like email, chat, click-to-call, form, and even the social channels like Twitter. And what you see in our trend data for the last 3 years, digital channel usage has been rising. Web self-service rates jumped 10% from 57% to 67%, for example. Chat jumped from 30 to 43%. Twitter jumped 11 percentage points from 11 to 22%. And again, like for purchasing activities, if you sum up all the customer service interactions over the digital channels, it far surpasses the customer service interaction over the phone channel. Next slide, please. And the digital customer is also raising expectations for the type and the quality of service that companies need to deliver to their customers to be able to keep them satisfied and loyal to their brand. Consumers, like all of you on the phone, you want your time to be valued. You expect efficient, effortless service. Here's some data for you. 52% will abandon an online purchase if they can't find a quick answer to their question. 71%, that's almost 3/4 of consumers out there, say that valuing their time is the most important thing a company can do to provide them with good service. Next slide. Customers also want not only pain-free or effortless service, but they want the company to look out for their best interests and proactively communicate to them about changes in a situation. So here's an example of this type of proactive yet effortless service, and it's the Delta app on my mobile phone. And what this is showing is that I had a flight where the Cleveland to LA leg ended up getting canceled. And the Delta app proactively notified me of my canceled flight. But it didn't stop here. Next slide. What it ended up doing was that it proactively pushed out alternate flights. And with a couple clicks of a button, I was able to choose the flight that I wanted to fly on, and the Delta app seamlessly rebooked me so I could get to my destination. So this is a great example, again, of not only effortless service, but the company proactively reaching out to me, not leaving me hanging halfway through my journey, and making sure that proactively other options were presented to me. So customers are not only engaging companies on a single channel, but more and more we're seeing that customers are using a set of channels, depending on their context, to interact with a company. So they're starting an interaction on one channel and continuing it on another. Like, for example, starting an interaction over web self-service and then continuing it over chat or over email. And consumers, when they switch channels in the during a service interaction, they do not expect to have to restart the conversation every time they switch channels. They want the conversation to be seamlessly continued, and the context of the prior conversations, of prior interactions, to be passed to the agent who is continuing the conversation. And this is what we mean that digital customers are omni-channel. So customers are using these omni-channel interactions not only for customer service, but over the entire engagement life cycle. For example, over all the activities that they do with businesses, from being able to discover products that a company has, to be able to compare products, decide to buy a particular product, actually purchase a product, that use a product and get service from a product. And they expect to use a wide choice of communication channels and digital touch points to be able to have these consistent and experiences across the entire engagement life cycle. So here's a very easy example of this type of omni-channel engagement. Next slide, please. For example, you've got customers who research banking products online and then walk into a branch to be able to purchase a product. For example, 64% of U.S. consumers research checking accounts online. 57% research savings account online, the terms and conditions needed to be able to sign up for one of these accounts, and yet still walk into a branch to be able to sign up for one of these retail banking products. And this is a great example of a omni-channel interaction that should be supported. So as the customer walks into the branch, the bank representative knows what this customer has done online and is able to contextualize and personalize the conversation for that particular customer to, again, build their long-term loyalty to their brand. And these omni-channel interactions are worldwide. For example, think about the usage scenario that we call click and collect, buying a product online and then walking into a store to pick up some merchandise. In the UK, for example, 57% had already adopted this type of omni-channel engagement, and 40% knew about it, but hadn't performed this action yet. So these omni-channel engagement journeys are everywhere and very pervasive in the world that we live in. And again, you need to be able to understand these end-to-end journeys that your customers are taking and be able to support these end-to-end journeys as they cross touch points, as they cross communication channels. So what are the digital transformation best practices for customer service? How can you make your operations better aligned to the needs of your customers? And the way that we always talk about this is you first want to step back and make the business case for a digital transformation initiative. And here's some more data for you that came from a global study that was undertaken by Accenture last year. And this study was based on tens of thousands of data points. And the study examined the impact of businesses not being able to support their digital customers in this ever-connected era over the touch points and the channels that they want to use for customer. And this study was focused on digital customer service. And what this study found was that 51% of U.S. consumers switched service providers in the past year because of poor digital customer service. And this 51% was up 5 percentage points from 2012. And what this did is it put 1.3, just over $1 trillion at play in the U.S. economy because of these consumers switching away from the current company that they did business with. And what they found was switching rates for consumers were the highest among retailers, among cable and satellite providers, and amongst retail banks. And what this means is that these sectors are the most vulnerable to churn, but also these sectors have potentially the most opportunity to gain from improving their digital customer service. And paying attention to the omnichannel customer and, again, supporting them in their end-to-end journey is important to companies to be able to preserve their revenue and to decrease churn. And then another very tactical way of making the business case is the cost incurred of not being able to support their customers over the channel of their choice. For example, take the case of a customer going to your website looking for an answer to their question and not being able to find the answer that they need to be able to continue their task. What are they going to do if they don't find the answer? If it's a customer service-related question, in 3/4 of the case, they're going to recontact you over a more expensive channel. They're going to pick up the phone, they're going to email you, they're going to chat with you. And these recontacts incur costs. And depending on the volume of recontacts and the channel that's being used for recontacts, these recontacts can incur costs, which run into the millions and millions of dollars. So here's another very tactical way of making the business case to be able to support your digital customers in the way that they expect to be supported. Another dimension of making the business case is quantifying the impact of negative sentiment about poor customer service experiences. And in the world that we live in, poor experiences are broadcast and amplified over the social channels, which impact and erode your brand. So what you're looking at on the screen here is something that we call our social technographic ladder at Forrester. And it's there's sorry. Can you go back, please? There you go. So there's two sets of numbers for you to look at. On the left hand of the ladder are B2C numbers. On the right hand of our ladder are B2B numbers. In the top red box is what we call our creators. Creators are the folks that are creating a negative review, a negative rating, a blog post, a negative tweet about a poor service experience. And this is about 1/3 of the population. The damage is done in the spectator category. And this is close to 3/4 of consumers. They're the ones who are reading the negative ratings and reviews, the tweets, the blog posts, the Facebook posts, and they're using this information to guide them in their future purchasing decisions. So this is a way that helps you understand and quantify the reach of negative social commentary about your customer service. So once you've made the business case, it's important to execute properly to support your customers. We know that companies want to provide consistent and connected cross-channel or omni-channel experiences. We've got here 30% of companies support a vision for these consistent cross-channel experiences. A quarter of companies believe that a seamless handoff between channels for customers, whether it's offline to online or online to offline, is important to be able to support their customers. Yet, 41% of companies are not able to provide this consistent cross-channel experience. Another 51%, that's half the companies out there, cannot support customers who want to start a conversation on one channel and continue it on another. And one of the problems that faces many companies is that they haven't paid enough attention to managing their knowledge assets, the answers to questions that customer-facing personnel need to have access to. Like this heat map shows, in many companies, knowledge assets are everywhere within an organization. In email, for example, in competitor battle cards, in corporate policies, and administrative tasks. And few companies are able or have taken the time to put in place knowledge bases to add order and easy access to content to be able to reproducibly answer customer questions. And fewer companies yet have put knowledge management programs in place to be able to ensure that the content remains in line with customer expectations. So what you need to do is focus on the foundations of your knowledge strategy. And then you want to make sure that you are delivering the same basic knowledge to customers across all the channels that you support. Not only the phone channel, but the digital channels and the social channels. And this means that every time a customer emails you or chats with you or goes on your website or your mobile app looking for an answer to their question, they will get reproducible, consistent answers that are tailored for the channel of their choice. And one way to be able to provide this consistent knowledge across touchpoints is to invest in a customer information hub that has a consistent layer of knowledge management that all channels can access, and it is one of the strengths of the eGain customer engagement solution. So what you want to do is be able to support your customers in the channels that they want to use, but as well in their end-to-end journeys as they cross channels, as they cross touch points. And to do this, you want to be able to, first of all, understand who your customers are, the journeys that they're taking with you, and the channels that they want to use. And there is no one-size-fits-all type of answer for every company. Every company has to do their due diligence to understand who their customers are and how they want to interact with the company. Once you know who your customers are, you want to choose your technology wisely that is able to support you today, but as also will future-proof you as your customers' channels and touchpoint needs change. Because our data shows that, for example, in the last 3 years, there's been an explosion of communication channels that weren't on our radar 3 years ago. For example, SMS, click-to-call, and even the social channels. You want to choose technology that can be flexibly deployed and expanded as your needs change. And again, you want to pay attention to the customer experience, but you also want to pay attention to the agent experience to make sure that the agents are empowered with customer history, with interaction history, with transactional history, so that they can personalize interactions that they have with their customers over the digital touch points. So to sum up, what you need to do is pay attention to your digital strategy for customer service. And there's 4 steps to be able to do this. Understand your customer experience strategy. Make sure your customer service operations are aligned to your customer experience strategy. Understand, again, your customers, who they are, the journeys they take with you. Pay attention to the technology that you choose and make sure that you choose technology that will future-proof you as your needs change and as your customers' needs change. And then make sure that you are paying attention to the agent experience and that you have embraced a company-centric culture that recognizes and rewards your agents for customer-centric behavior. And then with that, I am going to turn it over to Kurt.
Thank you very much, Kate. If anyone has any questions for Kate, feel free to submit them in the questions box, and we will get to them at the very end. I want to take this opportunity to introduce Kurt VanDynHoven from eGain. He is the Director of Retail Industry Solutions and an expert in multi-channel customer engagement. As a retail veteran with 25 years of experience in the industry, Kurt has held key positions in finance, operations, technology management, and customer engagement at Lands' End prior to eGain. And Kurt, over to you.
Thank you, Bobby, for that introduction. And Kate, wonderful information and content. It was a wealth of knowledge. And I'm going to try to build off of the information that Kate shared with us as well. So I'm going to do a brief introduction to eGain. We're going to do a little bit of a video that's going to help share what good customer multi-channel engagement looks like. And then we're going to talk a little bit more about the journey of how do you achieve digital excellence. So let's move forward here. And I will, thank you. So eGain is a software solution that's a cloud-based product that is specifically designed for the omni-channel customer engagement, and it includes things like interactive sales, multi-channel service, knowledge management. I'll give you a little bit more of an explanation as we proceed forward. Next slide. So Gartner has positioned eGain in the top right-hand corner, and we've been in that position for the last 5 years in a row. And what this rating is based on is the completeness of the vision and our ability to execute it. So that vision is based on a full web customer experience or omni-channel solution, and having it all together underneath one solution that is in a way that's going to help customers achieve many of the experiences that Kate had been talking about in regards to omni-channel, and having one experience through the customer's journey that can be picked up from, say, for example, a chat, all the way to a social engagement that may happen in terms of a website post or Facebook posting of that nature. So next slide. Here's just a quick splash of some customers and many channels that we deal business with. And you can see we have a lot of really good reputable brands that we work with. So next slide. What we're going to do here, and Bob, you can set the stage here and initiate the video. We have a 3.5-minute video that's going to give you a good feel for what customer engagement looks like. Sometimes a video is worth 1,000 words, and I just want to share this quick little slice of content for you. So Pallavi, we cannot hear the message. So what I'll do is I can take back and continue on with the presentation. So I apologize for that. the video component of that isn't going to work, so it's not going to be very valuable without the video. What I want to do to help myself, who's giving the presentation, as well as you, to everyone understand who do we have in the audience. So we're going to take a little poll here and get a feel for what sort of functions within your respective companies are you from. And we're only going to take a quick 10, 15 seconds here. And please just select one of these items, whether it be e-business commerce, IT, customer acquisition and marketing, sales, or other. Give us a feel for what part of the business function that you represent, and we'll get a feel for the audience that we have engaging with us today. So I'll just give it another second or so, and then we can have a chance to look at it. So Pallavi, why don't you show us what the results are at this point in time? All right, very good. We have actually a pretty good spread across all these functions. So 19% for e-commerce, 19% IT, 4% customer acquisition, sales 21%, and other 36%. So it gives a feel for a bit of the audience. So as we move forward here, what we want to talk about and build upon some of the message that Kate was delivering is we're going to talk about the digital engagement imperative and why it is so important, it's becoming increasingly more important that we pay attention to the needs of the customer. So it is upon us right now what's been coined as the age of the customer. And this is, we're taking this from Forrester as well, so it's a great lead from what Kate has been talking about. And if you look at it from a historical perspective, going back to the 1900s, 1960, it kind of defines the age of manufacturing. Think of Ford Motor Corporation at this point in time. They designed and had the competitive advantage over everyone else about the design of vehicles and the mass production. They were the leaders in it. They owned the market. They didn't really necessarily have the customer in mind because it was the market, is the mass production that really led it. For example, all you had was a choice of black. If you like, you get black or black, and if that's what you wanted, you were happy. But competition caught up to them, and it kind of led to the age of distribution. So in this particular case, think of Walmart. Think of the capabilities to do globalization and the mass production of quantities across the world. So they had a great ride, and they're still a very good company, but that competition caught to them, and it kind of led now to the age of information. And a good example in this one, it's more recent, is Google. Having the ability to understand how to take advantage of information and position in a way that they had a competitive advantage in the market. And now what we're seeing more and more in this new age is the age of the customer. And what's the biggest difference between the age of the customer and the previous ages is that it is the customer who's making the decisions and is determining who is succeeding and what needs to be done next in the world of competition to succeed. In the prior ages, the companies decided, and those within their respective industries, they made the rules, and if they were good within their industry, they could succeed. Now that the customer is making all the decisions across the board. So let's go on to the next slide. And if what we recognize too is as Kate was sharing, the customer experience really is the differentiator here. If you have great customer experience, you're going to have customers who are going to be much more willing to consider another purchase. Their likelihood to recommend to a friend would be much, much higher. And their likelihood to switch to a business competitor is going to be slower, much lower as well. So that leads into the statement that Kate shared with us, that 51% of U.S. consumers last year for service providers switched to another service provider just due to a poor experience. That leads to that $1.3 trillion changing of the economy that's taking place. And the question is, are you going to be upping your opportunities to improve that experience and grab more of that share? Or are you going to be the company that is giving it up? But it's there for the grabs, and it's all based off of providing exceptional customer care experiences. Another way to understand customer engagement and how it impacts the business world is just looking at who's winning in the financial world in terms of the stock prices and performance that the shareholders are evaluating companies. And companies that have a proven better customer engagement experience also have better financial metrics. For example, here it shows 26% higher profit margins, 9% higher revenue, 12% higher market capitalizations. And you can look at the flip side of companies who are recognized as laggards in the customer experience. They have negative metrics when it comes to these same sort of financial metrics. So the market is rewarding companies who are good at customer engagement because their customers are loyal and their businesses are growing. Next slide. All right, so one last factor is 9 out of 10 chief executive officers saying that strengthening their customer and their client engagement programs is one of their top priorities. So what we're saying is that if you look at the key message points you just shared about customer engagement, the importance of it is we're in an era of the customer now rules. We recognize that if you want to have loyalty, and the facts all show that a good customer engagement creates a good loyalty. The good loyalty leads to a higher financial recognition in the market, and you're going to have a more successful company. Executives are understanding that, and 9 out of 10 of them are saying they need to do something about this. So it all boils down to the engagement should be easy. That's a key component to friendly customer engagements and winning in the market. So how do you do that? In order to be easy, you have to have engagements that are based on when, where, and how the customer wants it. They want it fast and accurate. They want it proactive. They want it intelligent, anywhere, anytime, any place, any device. But it all has to be connected. Connected based on their journey of choice, not the journeys that you're going to allow them to take. And we've seen that customers increasingly are becoming more and more digital, and we have to be in a position, if we want to compete better, to have all these digital journeys connected. So the guided engagement makes it really easy to start taking these journeys and bringing them all together, from the point where you're trying to connect with the customer to educating them to servicing and optimize the solution. You have to have a well thought out plan of attack that's all based on bringing the customer connection points together and creating moments of interaction that make it easy for the customer. So what we're going to look at here is just a high-level view of how you would accomplish that with a technology solution. Kate shared earlier about a customer engagement hub, and that's a key component about how do you bring all these disparate digital channels together and connection points. And one of the key ways is making sure that you have a solution in place that can bring these together underneath one common platform, and that's a customer engagement platform. And in that platform, you have processes and knowledge and interaction analytics that are consistent and one and the same across all of these connection points. And those connection points can be, a Facebook, a chat. They can be multi-channel in terms of being on a mobile device or a website or extending out into the retail stores. Having the ability to recognize all the journeys your customers are taking and the touch points they have, bring them together under one solution or engagement platform that then allows to have a consistent process, knowledge, interactions, and analytics across the table. Makes it much easier to keep track of what the customer had been doing and then respond with personalized services engagements with them. Now, the other key component of this is having the ability to know that if you have a platform like this in place, it has to work with your legacy infrastructure. And having knowledge that a system can integrate with your back-end CRM, your content management system, CTI, e-commerce, and there's many more to be named. It's a key component to being successful with your digital strategies. So when you put it all together, you get what we coin as a power of one. One seamless journey, one multi-channel, omnichannel desktop experience, a set of business processes that are consistent across all the digital paths that customers are taking with you, a consistent knowledge base, it allows you to really follow through and provide the experience the customer is looking for whenever, wherever, and however they want it. And it's very, very powerful. So what we're going to do now is have a little conversation about the digital excellence or digital roadmap and how can you as businesses make progress in where you are. And one of the first things to do that is to understand there is a maturity process that takes place that is very purposeful, and you need first to understand where do you currently exist within this maturity life cycle. And to give you a little background on it, and I'll focus on the front side of this, is that when you look at the ways in which you touch your customers, when you connect with them, by proactively making the right connections, or you educate, or you acquire, you serve, you optimize, there's many ways in which customers are having journeys with you across these different connection capabilities. And you need to understand for each of your connections that you have, or the journeys your customers are taking with you, how mature are you in delivering the customer engagement experience that customers are expecting from you? And it's a very honest assessment that you need to take place. And part of that assessment is just in looking at it and say, are you at a very basic level, or what it's referred to as established level of basic information? And then the ability to move forward and say that you are a deliverer of a customer execution. It's that you have the ability to go that next level and have higher standards and higher customer expectations. And then the next higher level yet is to differentiate yourself. Are you to a point that you actually are differentiated your customer experience from your competitors? And there's not that many there. And the next one is delight. Delight means you are the leader in your category, and everyone looks to you and says, I know that's who I aspire to be, and that's typically the company that's winning in the market as well. So doing a I apologize for advancing past. Doing that assessment allows you to look at it. Here's the different ways in terms of a matrix. I'm not going to cover all this material, but you can. I'll use one as an example, the connect up at top here, as an illustrated example to assess where you stand. If you were, when you connect with that customer at a very basic level, is that you had no requests or help. The user has to take the initiative to reach out to you. That's just a very low-end basic maturity model. And as you move over and you get the boxes where you start to differentiate, then you're starting to do things like take proactive help and assistance with the customer, and you're reaching out to them in their moment of time and need. And for each one of these, there's ways in which you go from basic, the customer reaches for help, to you're being there when they want it, in their moment of need, and taking advantage of information you know about them that allows you to personalize and customize that experience to their needs. So the reason I'm sharing this is I'd like you to take a quick look at that. And what we're going to do is we're going to pop up a poll here in a little bit. And I want you to assess where do you think the maturity level of your specific organization is based on some of the information I shared here. So one other key point here I want to share out is as you grow and become more mature within your customer engagement capabilities, there is no one path fits all for all companies. It is all very situational and dependent upon the brand of your company, the demographics of your customers, what makes the most difference with your respective companies, and it's knowing that you're making the right choices to get yourself from that standard level of maturity up to a point where you can start to delight customers. And it takes homework and research to do that. And a key part of that, though, is when you are looking for technologies and solutions to help enable this, you have to look for solutions that are flexible and powerful enough to give you a whole selection of options that you can plug and play in accordance to what makes most sense for your brand and your customer. So with that being said, what I would like to do is have a poll here. And Flavia, if you could introduce the poll. Please rate yourself as to where do you think your digital capabilities are right now. And the four options are establish, deliver, differentiate, or delight. And again, if you're delight, would mean you're at the pinnacle of the industry and everyone looks to you as the leader. So take just a second here. You can discuss it amongst yourself, or please select one. And what we see in the industry, though, is that the vast majority of current companies out there right now are somewhere around that established deliver in terms of maturity. And we're getting more and more recognizing the need to go up toward the differentiate delight, but they're not quite there yet. So can we look at the poll results now? Okay, this is very much in line with what you'd see within the industry. So the group representation we have in here is in line with what I've seen for other surveys that have taken place. And what we really need to do is get the 3% that are online there who are in that delight spot where they're being inspired by the others and really learn from them as well, because that's a great place to be. So if we can advance. So the next thing is I'm going to talk through in a next minute or two here some real life stories. So, Kate did a really nice job trying to emphasize, the power of creating business case and getting people to recognize that there is value behind this, and there absolutely is. Take for this example, the Premier Catalog Company that did a large volume of offers in a year, and what they were able to do is proactively monitor what's going on within their e-commerce site and reach out to customers. For example, if they're having problems in a checkout and they're getting error messages taking place, it's a perfect opportunity to recognize that you are understanding their experience in their moment of need. You reach out to them and you offer them for assistance to chat or click to call, or it could just be assistance with content that explains better about their problem they may have. And what we recognize is that when you reach out to a customer proactively in their moment of need, that their likelihood of converting them and having them finish through the funnel is significantly higher. In this case, we've seen a 5% uplift in the shopping conversion. So we've seen some really good results that when you send this math out, it's very, very powerful. Another example here is a leading healthcare insurance carrier. Recognizing that there was changes within the healthcare market with the, offering up a different market where people can go out and get insurance through the government organizations. It really changed the tables of how people looked for their health care and their health needs. And with that change, it became more evident that they needed to find new ways to keep the customers engaged with them in their shopping experience. And one of those options is extending out a co-browse experience where they can they could be on their site for a healthcare site, and they'd let them go to the commercial or government sites, and they'd hold their hand as they understood what were all the complexities of the new program, but they were going really from their site to a site external to theirs, going back and forth in a core browse scenario. And what it allowed them to do is keep that connection with that customer, help them through their specific digital journey and shopping for insurance, and it increased their ability to have them stay with them for their insurance needs. And equally as important, it actually reduced the overall contact engagement time. One last example I'll have here before we get into some question and answer is an example of a large multinational telco company. They introduced web self-service capabilities, and it allowed customers through having knowledge management. Again, Kate mentioned the importance of introducing consistent knowledge management across all the omni-channels. They introduced their knowledge management solution to their website, allowed people in a very structured way to access the content so they could get the service they wanted. And they've seen a 20% increase in self-service deflection, which in this case is tens of millions of dollars of labor that resulted in savings and increased their overall first contact resolution as well. So when it's done right and you have the right tools in place, the rewards and the business case around these are pretty substantial. And it's a matter of just understanding the power of the tools and the power of getting customer engagement done right. The influence it can have on the success of your company is very, very impressive. So with that, I'm going to hand it back over to Pallavi. We're going to do some Q&A and see what questions that you may have of us.
Thanks, Kurt. Thanks to everyone who submitted questions. Feel free to keep submitting on the right-hand side. But to start off, for Kurt, what are some of the challenges that eGain has with browser, operating systems, and mobile devices? How do you meet the customer's needs when they approach you on different platforms?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because that is part of the solution success, is that you have to have a digital solution that allows it to be enabled for multiple platforms. So whether you're talking a tablet or your handheld mobile device or e-commerce site, the same solutions and capabilities work across all of those platforms and provide that seamless connection. So it doesn't matter what the browsers are, their device, the solutions and the technology nowadays enables it to work seamlessly across each of those respective channels or devices.
Great. And a question for Kate. What do you like most about eGain? Kate, are you?
What do I like most about eGain?
Yeah.
It's the breadth of communication channels available on a single architecture of case management and knowledge management, as well as some of the customer successes that have been achieved from eGain working with customers over the last several decades.
All right, and for either of you, what are your thoughts on the personal email address becoming a key identifier and the personal email address's place with customer engagement?
You want to take that one first, Kurt?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of leads to a key component of an identifier or someone authenticating who they are. So it is a bit problematic sometimes in the digital world of customers not always authenticating or letting you know who they are. So the email address many times is that key component. And you try to, whether it's in a chat or emails or whatever the channel it is, try to get something that allows you to uniquely identify them and capture that in your customer engagement hub, so then you can use it to provide a better customer experience and connect the dots of their digital journey. But it is true, it is an issue, and it's an issue for all solutions. If the way they're engaging with you, they do not authenticate themselves, it becomes more challenging to connect the dots about their journey. But it still doesn't mean that you can't provide them a good engagement experience and being proactive about their needs, because even when they're on your site, you can still see what they're doing in that moment of need and reach out to them.
Yeah, I don't think I have anything to add. I think that's a perfect answer.
Great. Thank you. I think that's pretty much all the time we have. If we have not gone over your question, we'll reach out to you soon. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and especially a big thank you to Kurt and Kate for sharing your insights today. And as I mentioned before, you'll be receiving details later this week on both the slides and the recording from today. And be sure to register for eGain World. You'll have a chance to hear from eGain executives from Cisco, Intel, PG&E, and you will be able to receive solutions training as well, and it's all completely free to attend. So be sure to register at the link provided in the chat. And thank you, everyone, and have a great week.